Johnny Carson uncovered 6 Hollywood celebrities renowned for their poor acting skills. Hosting The Tonight Show for 3 decades, Johnny Carson not only amused the nation but also influenced its preferences in entertainment. His endorsement could skyrocket careers instantly. His sharp humor could equally swiftly undermine the confidence of Hollywood's most prominent figures. Yet what most audience members failed to notice was that the country's favorite TV host was also its sharpest evaluator. Once filming ended and viewers departed, Carson frequently expressed his candid views on the stars he had just hosted, views much harsher than any aired publicly. Johnny possessed an extraordinarily vast understanding of movies and stage work. According to a longtime Tonight Show producer who collaborated with him for more than 10 years, he could identify an actor with narrow abilities right away. Although he remained consistently courteous during broadcasts, he maintained a private ranking of celebrities he regarded as genuinely awful performers. As shared by those in his close circle, Carson's opinions were not mere fleeting disfavors or individual grudges. They represented the thoughtful evaluations of someone who had spoken with nearly every significant figure from the classic era, followed their professional paths over many years, and gained keen perceptions about the distinction between real skill and fabricated fame. Johnny felt there was a reserved spot in hell for attractive individuals given acting opportunities purely due to their appearance, said his veteran chief writer. He would relax in his office post-show, drink in hand, and offer the harshest reviews imaginable, and remarkably, he was correct nearly always. Most surprising to his acquaintances was Carson's skill in preserving his charming demeanor on air while hosting stars he secretly deemed intolerable. The host, capable of dismantling a celebrity's whole body of work with one private remark, would extend flawless politeness to that individual during the interview. The authentic Johnny emerged afterward, observed a cameraman employed on The Tonight Show for 2 decades. He would imitate their delivery or performance decisions with such precision that it left everyone laughing hysterically. Then he would glance over and remark, "And they earn millions for that." Through the years, Carson's confidential ranking of Hollywood's genuinely unskilled actors circulated among his trusted group, a group of celebrities whose success stemmed from factors other than performance talent. Now we are disclosing the 6 figures who ranked highest on Johnny's compilation of the classic era's most restricted performers. Celebrities who gained renown in spite of their acting, rather than due to it. But initially, we must explore how Carson, lacking any official cinema education, cultivated such a precise ability to distinguish true artistry from cleverly marketed inadequacy. Johnny Carson, the hidden evaluator. Prior to rising as the nation's late-night ruler, Johnny Carson avidly studied performing arts. Raised in Nebraska amid the Great Depression, the youthful Johnny frequently visited cinemas when he could afford tickets, fostering a lifelong love for movies. Many overlook that Johnny began as a magician, noted his past executive producer. Illusion tricks train you to detect deception, to discern when illusion is created versus true skill displayed. Johnny used that identical critical perspective toward acting throughout his career. When Carson assumed hosting duties for The Tonight Show in 1962, he had already formed highly refined preferences. Though he portrayed himself publicly as an average guy, in private he enjoyed classical plays, international films, and thoughtful movies in addition to popular Hollywood productions. This foundation provided him a distinctive viewpoint during star interviews. He could converse about Shakespeare with Laurence Olivier, the method approach with Marlon Brando, and slapstick humor with Carol Burnett, all backed by authentic expertise that often astonished guests. Johnny comprehended acting deeply, stated a director acquainted with him personally. He distinguished between skilled technique and simple stardom, and he showed zero tolerance for attractive individuals awarded roles without cultivating real ability. His role offered him an unmatched observation post. Over 30 years, almost every key Hollywood figure appeared in his studio. He observed them handling stress, improvising and reacting to surprise queries, exposing their actual versatility and depth in manners that polished movie takes could mask. Johnny could determine in moments whether a person possessed true acting prowess, asserted his ex-talent booker. He would pose an unforeseen query and observe their quick processing and genuine response. Attractive but vacant personalities couldn't pretend convincingly in that setting. Though always courteous during tapings, Carson sometimes subtly revealed his actual opinions. A subtle brow lift, a brief smile stiffening, or a fast look at Ed McMahon conveyed much to insiders. Following episodes with especially unskilled guests, Carson would withdraw to his office for what staff termed the genuine critique, frankly direct opinions confined to his trusted team, but famous among crew. For the first time now, we disclose the 6 classic-era celebrities Carson secretly viewed as the most profoundly skill-deficient to reach huge success, starting with a figure whose name itself turned into a synonym for poor performance. Fire by friction out of a Boy Scout manual. A child of 5 should be able to do it. Number 1. Sonny Tufts. The name that became a joke, Suffering Sonny Tufts. This phrase, exclaimed by animated characters in peril, instantly amused 1940s filmgoers. The humor wasn't arbitrary. It directly alluded to an actor Carson viewed as possibly the poorest to gain prominence in Hollywood's classic period. Johnny held a particular interest in Sonny Tufts, shared his ex-chief writer. He gathered Tufts's films like others collect disasters. He occasionally showed Tufts's works to writers merely to illustrate how someone so obviously restricted could rise to fame. Sonny Tufts possessed ideal credentials superficially. Yale graduate from a distinguished Boston lineage, tall and attractively good-looking. Paramount contracted him amid World War II as many top men served overseas, opening spots for fresh male leads. What Tufts missed, per Carson, was any trace of performance skill. Johnny performed a spot-on mimicry of Tufts, remembered a Tonight Show writer. He would stiffen his posture, adopt a totally empty face, and deliver dialogue devoid of any link to its emotion. It was comically precise. Carson often mentioned Tufts in 1960s-70s monologues, preserving the actor's notoriety long past his short peak. When a gag failed, Carson might say, "That was penned by Sonny Tufts." If bad acting arose with a guest, Carson inevitably shifted discussion to Tufts. "We all recognize Sonny," Carson once quipped publicly about Tufts. "We simply wonder why." The audience roared, but it reflected Carson's sincere view. How could someone so unskilled gain even brief fame? The explanation, Carson thought, exposed the studio system's power to fabricate celebrities irrespective of skill. Paramount required leads during wartime and possessed promotion tools to build them from basic traits, ability not required. Johnny regarded Tufts as the ideal illustration of studio cynicism, noted a past NBC leader familiar with him. "Provide a good-looking face and we'll persuade the audience he's famous." Skill optional. Johnny deemed it intriguing, yet somewhat disrespectful to true artistry. His obsession with Tufts's flaws echoed his wider critique of a business prioritizing looks over talent. At least Tufts was mostly overlooked by Carson's mockery era. Our following figure remained quite prominent when Carson started privately judging her narrow abilities. Star is one thing and a person to exist as an actress is another, and a person who has had publicity do so much for them. Number 2, Jane Mansfield, the glamour icon. Without depth, publicly, Johnny Carson stayed impeccably polite whenever Jane Mansfield guested on The Tonight Show. He praised her outfits, chuckled at her stories, and afforded her identical courteous treatment as every visitor. Privately, per several insiders near Carson, his view was harsh. "She's a walking publicity gimmick," Carson allegedly said to crew after one notably superficial Mansfield segment. "Nothing substantial there." Carson especially disliked what he perceived as Mansfield's total disinterest in building any real acting proficiency despite ample chances. Unlike Marilyn Monroe, who seriously studied acting and trained with instructors her whole career, Mansfield appeared satisfied merely embodying her persona. Johnny greatly admired stunning women with actual talent. Julie Andrews, Sophia Loren, Barbara Streisand, said a former Tonight Show producer. What he despised were those relying solely on physique, and Mansfield exemplified that for him. Carson's keen observation caught how Mansfield dodged any query needing true introspection in talks, shifting instead to rehearsed tales or playful flirting. When pressed outside her zone, she would laugh or feign bewilderment, methods Carson secretly labeled the vacant arsenal of a non-performer. "She arrived. That was the act," Carson remarked to writers post one Mansfield visit. The phrase turned into crew shorthand for visitors offering only appearance. Carson's critique stung, particularly because he detected Mansfield's smarts beneath her ditzy persona. He felt she intentionally avoided honing true abilities, since her looks sufficed for notoriety. Johnny saw it as nearly manipulative, recalled his veteran producer. He'd note, "She's clever enough to realize she should improve, making it more frustrating. At least honest failures attempt and miss. She doesn't try." To Carson, Mansfield typified a specific Hollywood manipulation, the engineered allure who avoided surpassing the image. Though he kept courteous on air, crew recalled his clear sigh of relief when her parts finished. As she exited stage, Johnny would relax his tie and breathe out, as if completing a tough task, a cameraman remembered. Then he'd glance at Ed McMahon with a slight eye roll, conveying everything. While Mansfield's flaws annoyed Carson due to her evident laziness, our next figure embodied another issue. A hugely popular youth who appeared truly unable to give a believable portrayal despite many tries. Western, is it? Well, not exactly, but we did want to kind of spoof some of the Sergei Leo. Number 3. Tab Hunter. The attractive but vacant star, Tab Hunter symbolized all Johnny Carson disliked in Hollywood's celebrity factory. Exceptionally handsome with blonde locks, blue eyes, and sharp features, Hunter rose as a 1950s teen favorite despite what Carson saw as severe acting shortcomings. Johnny would view Tab Hunter films and shake his head in disbelief, a writer close to Carson recalled. He'd comment, "They handed him dialogue endlessly, film after film, and he never got better. Not by chance." Carson hosted Hunter several times in the 1960s, 70s, always politely professional. But off-camera, Carson frequently remarked on what he termed Hunter's striking performer void. "He performed with his profile," Carson supposedly said to crew after one Hunter visit. The shot would start, and you'd sense him deciding which angle flattered most, instead of focusing on required feeling. What intrigued Carson about Hunter was the gap between his massive appeal and restricted scope. Teenage fans shrieked at appearances and purchased his cover magazines, yet reviewers consistently panned his stiff, lifeless portrayals. When cameras started, the mind stopped, Carson joked to producers post a 1970s Hunter interview. The quip summed Carson's view of Hunter's core flaw, total failure to think and emote truly during acting. Carson especially enjoyed how filmmakers navigated Hunter's weaknesses, reducing his lines, pairing him with capable co-stars to handle scenes, and emphasizing looks over emotional depth. Johnny theorized about Tab Hunter, a former NBC leader explained. He saw Hunter as proof audiences could project desires onto an appealing, empty slate. The less distinct character shown, the easier teens envisioned him as perfect beau. Coincidentally, Carson's Hunter view softened later, especially after Hunter's 2005 memoir disclosed his hidden homosexuality as a teen idol, forced into a fabricated life, possibly causing his rigid acting. By the book's release, Johnny had died, a Carson friend noted, but I believe he'd have adjusted his stance. He might have seen Hunter's stiffness partly from the mental burden of faking identity on camera. Still, in his Tonight Show period, Carson viewed Hunter as prime proof of studio-built fame where looks entirely eclipsed skill or its absence. While Hunter showed the male side of fabricated celebrity, our next illustrated how the model could repeat with reduced quality. My arms, my lips are thrilled. Number 4. Mamie Van Doren. The production line bombshell. If Johnny Carson found Jane Mansfield's acting limits irritating, he saw Mamie Van Doren as nearly comical, a duplicate of a duplicate exposing Hollywood's calculated star creation. She makes stiff boards seem lively, Carson once said of Van Doren post her late 1960s show appearance. The staff remark summed his view of her rigid portrayals and narrow scope. To Carson, Van Doren epitomized the studio at its most blatantly commercial. After Marilyn Monroe's breakthrough, companies rushed similar platinum allure types, first Mansfield at Fox, then Van Doren at Universal. Each version, Carson judged, featured less skill. Johnny theorized on the bombshell factory line, his former talent coordinator said. He'd explain starting with Marilyn, who held real talent under the image. Then Mansfield with image but little talent. By Van Doren, they skipped seeking acting. They wanted proportions and dyed hair. What especially struck Carson was Van Doren's apparent failure to convey even basic lines persuasively. In her Tonight Show visits, he saw her reciting scripted replies instead of true dialogue, a sign of her performer limits. She's a mechanical toy, Carson reportedly said to Ed McMahon after one awkward Van Doren talk. Aim her somewhere and pray she avoids obstacles. Carson's Van Doren critique arose partly from perceived studio cynicism, assuming viewers ignored acting if looks matched template. This star-building insulted Carson's appreciation for authentic work. Johnny felt audiences merited more, a social acquaintance director said. He viewed it as demeaning to assume they couldn't distinguish real talent from template filler. Despite private views, Carson stayed courteous in Van Doren's visits. He avoided public jabs at her flaws and provided equal exposure. His real opinions stayed private, for his circle only. While Van Doren marked the bottom of Carson's bombshell line, our next proved even male celebrities who later became solid performers could start with such awkward efforts they gained notoriety for clumsiness. Stanley. Oh, Stanley, you directed it. Oh, that's why you look familiar. Number 5. Tony Curtis. From Brooklyn streets to historical roles. Poorly. Unlike most on Carson's ranking of unskilled actors, Tony Curtis ultimately grew into a performer Carson truly admired. Yet his initial roles, especially badly suited period parts, stayed a lifelong amusement source for Carson. Yonder lies the castle of my father. This Curtis line, in heavy Brooklyn tone as a medieval warrior in 1954's The Black Shield of Falworth, became Carson's top example of casting blunders. He cited it often on The Tonight Show as code for acting shattering viewer immersion. Johnny especially enjoyed the Curtis case, a longtime Carson friend explained. Here was a Bronx youth with thick accent, yet Universal cast him repeatedly as Vikings, Eastern Royals, Knights. Johnny found the boldness funny and oddly bold. What interested Carson in Curtis was observing his shift from attractive lead to valid actor. Unlike list others who stagnated, Curtis built real proficiency via hard work and training. He improved, but studios excuse accents quicker than viewers, Carson reportedly said post-1970s Curtis interview. The comment showed Carson's grasp of how early marks linger despite later progress. Carson's interest in Curtis's early work stemmed from Hollywood ignoring clear mismatches if looks fit. Curtis's appealing traits and charm outweighed whether viewers accepted his New York speech as ancient prince. Johnny cited Curtis as writer lesson, a former head writer recalled. He'd state, credibility counts. Once viewers laugh at accent during dramatic moments, they're gone. Despite early critique, Carson gained true admiration for Curtis's advancement. Roles in Sweet Smell of Success, 1957, and The Defiant Ones, 1958, proved commitment Carson valued. Evidence Curtis invested in craft over coasting on looks. By 1970's regular visits, Carson afforded Curtis legitimate respect, with occasional light teasing on past roles. This blend of praising growth while noting old flaws set Curtis apart in Carson's unskilled roster. Curtis handled early jabs gracefully, laughing with Carson's mild pokes and admitting role absurdities. A humility Carson found appealing versus pretentious stars hiding clear weaknesses. While Curtis showed redemption beyond limits, our last list member typified another. A personality renowned mainly for self-presentation, with scant desire to depict others. Don't compare with Miss Hems. She was 60 million for Americans. That's when I just hit a cup because she called me dirty names. Number 6. Zsa Gabor, the supreme self-performer. If Johnny Carson's critiques of most unskilled actors focused on failing to portray roles convincingly, his view of Zsa Gabor differed slightly. She barely attempted. She behaved as a celebrity, never as a role, Carson reportedly said to producers after one of Gabor's frequent Tonight Show appearances. The remark captured her core method: always Gabor, whatever the part. Gabor visited The Tonight Show often during Carson's run. She provided dependable amusement, glamorous, bold, quick with comebacks. But Carson privately observed these traits mirrored every screen character, with no visible distinction between couch guest and supposed roles. Johnny theorized on Zsa, his former talent coordinator said. He thought she chose early that embodying Zsa Gabor proved more engaging and lucrative than learning to portray others. And he conceded she was correct. What captivated Carson was Gabor's total ease with this style. Unlike other restricted actors seeking unattainable depth, Gabor happily appeared as herself in varied outfits and scenarios. She's perfected avoiding acting, Carson once said to Ed McMahon mid-break after Gabor. At least she understands her game. Carson noted Gabor mastered making limits appear deliberate, as if diverse roles were below her status. Her trademark dolling and accent stayed fixed, whether elite lady or improbably Western pioneer. Johnny somewhat respected her candor, a former NBC leader near Carson said. Most poor actors feign varied characters while self-playing. Zsa skipped pretense. She played Zsa and cashed in. Despite critique, Carson truly liked Gabor as guest. Her self-knowledge, sharp humor, and bold persona embrace made great TV, even if restricting dramatic viability. She arrived for chats, not Oscars, Carson once quipped, summing Gabor's tactic. She carved a space needing no classic skill, yet yielding fame, wealth, and lasting notoriety. In Carson's unskilled actors collection, Gabor held unique spot, transforming non-acting into personal style, blueprint for later fame-by-self celebrities. Lessons from Johnny's ranking about Hollywood. Johnny Carson's confidential views on these 6, Sonny Tufts, Jane Mansfield, Tab Hunter, Mamie Van Doren, Tony Curtis, and Zsa Gabor, reveal beyond personal preferences. They illuminate classic era and later star machinery operations. Johnny grasped a core industry truth, a director familiar with him said. Performance skill was merely one factor studios weighed in building stars, often not primary. Linking most Carson terrible actors was exceptional physical allure. Tufts, Mansfield, Hunter, Van Doren, and early Curtis all looked stunning on film, a trait studios knew attracted crowds despite acting quality. Johnny often said Hollywood used a balance scale, his former head writer recalled. Greater beauty meant needing less talent. He felt studios preferred stunning limited performers over average-looking exceptional ones. This pragmatic yet cynical view explained how obviously flawed actors gained and held fame in studio times. The machine built sellable items for ticket sales, not necessarily top-skilled actors. Johnny viewed the full landscape from his vantage, a former NBC leader noted. He spoke with them repeatedly, tracked rises and declines, saw highs and lows. No reviewer or journalist matched that prolonged close access over years. Carson's ranking also shows stardom shifts across his Tonight Show tenure. Early like Tufts and young Curtis reflect old studio fabricating irrespective of fit. Later like Gabber foreshadow today's fame often trumps talent culture. Johnny observed the full shift, a TV expert studying his career said. He started hosting classic system remnants and finished with fame for fame figures. He witnessed celebrity evolution firsthand. Carson's opinions prove especially useful from direct encounters, not just screen viewing. The Tonight Show's live talk demanded quick thinking, exposing flaws polished films hid via editing and retakes. Johnny saw talk shows as ultimate leveler, his former producer said. No hiding behind cuts or repeats. Presence, responsiveness, authenticity required. Qualities truly limited performers couldn't imitate. Despite occasionally sharp private opinions, Carson retained professional admiration for entertainment overall. He knew success demanded varied performers, from trained classics to personality stars never claiming more. Johnny avoided elitism, a close friend stressed. He savored Olivier's Hamlet and Gabor's self-act. He simply disliked pretense, claiming depth without it. This equilibrium made Carson perfect Hollywood chronicler. He spotted true talent while grasping business realities favoring sales over skill. His unskilled actors ranking wasn't mere gossip. It was veteran insiders' industry analysis he knew deeply. Carson's ranking also discloses about himself, true reverence for craft and genuineness behind friendly facade. Qualities making him top interviewer, detail focus, people reading, performance grasp, made him astute acting judge. Johnny valued realness, his longtime producer concluded. In drama or talks, he sensed instantly genuine versus false. That's what united his terrible actors list. Inability to persuade him they truly embodied another's world. Ultimately, Carson's private views on these six provide insight not only into his preferences, but into the intricate ties of talent, looks, and fame defining Hollywood's classic era. Perspectives from TV's sharpest observer of 6 entertainment decades.